But the first step before you can do anything is that the CEO has to understand that they are the leader of people, that they are HR, that HR is not some extension, or some function beside them, that they are really the HR leader. And the way that you understand or can determine or evaluate whether a CEO is or isn't the leader of people are they need to have certain attributes, what I'll call leadership skills. And some of those skills are things like, and these might seem like basic skills to most people, but my research has shown that 80% in that area of CEOs don't have, let's say, a strong amount of these skills. And there are about 20% of CEOs that do. So obviously, the goal here is to try and get more of those 80% to understand these skills. And these skills can be developed, by the way. So there are things like active listening. There are things like emotional intelligence, approachability, the ability to coach and mentor, the ability to be empathetic towards employees, the ability to be transparent with employees. In other words, the ability to be a real human being, not just quote unquote the business leader of the organization, but someone who gets people, who understand that different people have different needs in the organization, and to really work on and spend time developing those different skills. Now, how do you develop those skills? Well, belonging to groups like Vistage. I know, Dave, you're part of the Vistage group. I've spoken to a lot of Vistage groups. These are gatherings of CEOs where executives learn from other executives about what they're doing, what the best practices are in their organization. So that's a great way to become a better people leader. Having an executive coach is another great way. Having somebody that can point out to you, hey, you might have been able to handle this situation differently, and here's how. And just peer feedback, the openness and the ability to be able to listen to your peers and listen to people in the organization and say, hey, how can I be a better people leader? What are some of the things? And to learn from your mistakes as a CEO. We're all somewhat imperfect and we make mistakes. So it's really important if the CEO wants to be the people leader, and HR has to have, the cliche is a seat at the table. So if finance has a seat at the table and sales and marketing, which they should, in a CEO who leads people, HR is at the table. In other words, they're as important, if not more important, than any other function in the organization. And in those 20% of companies where the CEOs get it, HR is right there with them. And I've spoken to a lot of CEOs of small, medium, and large companies that say, hey, the first person I go to when I have a strategic challenge in my organization is HR. That's the person or people that I want to talk to and say, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what we need to do. Here's the impact on people. What do you think? That's when you know that a CEO as a people leader is getting it and is involving HR in the process. So that's step one. We're talking about 6 steps here. But if you don't have that, Dave, if you don't have that CEO bought in, it's not going to work. Like what those 80% do is they just delegate HR and say, well, you guys take care of culture, and you guys take care of engagement, and you guys take care of the performance review process. And that is what they call abdicating, not delegating. Right. So a delegator understands that they need to be an owner of the process. So there's a lot of work to do in the transformation of HR into a profit center, but the CEO is the key component of that transformation.